Yo, YouTube, what's going on, man? It's your boy McLavishh. Welcome back, family, to another video, man. And you guys already see the title of this video, right? It's we're going deep again, man. We're going deep again, and I understand that as the world continues to evolve and we get through this more technological phase of society, there are going to be a lot more things that pull you in different directions, and the basis for this video is having a sense of self before you go out into this world. You have to be willing to have an open and honest conversation with yourself about the reality that you're in now and the reality that you want to align yourself with in the future. And by doing such things, you have to be who you want to be in this exact moment. So by being who you have to be, you will do what you have to do in this exact moment, and you will have what you want to have in the near future. The whole basis for this is starting with the principle and the foundation of who are you outside of what society has conditioned you to be, right? And that's a hard question for anybody to ask because we've grown up in a world where you've been taught everything, right? It takes an awareness to go back and actually question the different things that life has decided to teach you and gain a different understanding of those things and unlearn to relearn, if that makes sense, right? let's just bring up like a generic example, right? um let's say Joey has no knowledge of self. Joey has no knowledge of self. He's going through high school and just basically, trying to fit in, right? Why does Joey do this? Because Joey doesn't have his a knowledge of self. Joey has no vision or purpose in what he wants to do for himself, right? And that is not his fault, right? Because nobody has taught Joey how to think, right? Nobody has told Joey, hey, you shouldn't have to just conform to society. And this is why, you know, for my people out there who are like this, right? The outcasts, the lonely people who deal with life on their own, these people understand where I'm coming from because you realize that you've always had this sense of like I don't agree with that mindset, more of a rebellious mindset, right? And by doing so, you've already found your place better in solitude and in isolation, doing the internal work for yourself. So when you go out into the external, nothing can really phase you, right? And that derives into my definition of spirituality, which is what I do internally will be a reflection of my world externally. What I conquer in my mind, my body, and my soul, that will have an effect on what happens to me externally, right? If I have a vast amount of emotional intelligence, if I'm able to have control over my emotions as the trials and tribulations of the world are thrown at me, I'll be better off for it. If I have a foresight and an intuition that, me thinking dangerously and planning out every scenario, because overthinking is never a bad thing, right? You're going to overthink and go through things, right? But it starts with having that honest conversation with yourself of where you are right now and where you want to be in the future, right? And that leads me into this. A lot of people say they live their lives day by day, right? I live my life decision by decision because I realize that every decision that I face may or may not have an effect on my near future. And when you live with this principle, it carries such a standard that, excuse me, it carries such a standard that you realize that whatever you do or whatever you say may or may not have effect or open and close doors for you in your future, right? And you move accordingly. Have that honest conversation with yourself. Find your own set of morals, codes, and ethics for yourself. And I got a video for you guys today. One of my favorite speakers of this time, Jordan Peterson, right? Very, very intelligent man, right? Speaks very well, very highly of himself. And the title of it is how Jordan Peterson sorted himself out at age 25. And I'm 24, right? So my goal and my purpose is, especially for my younger generation, right? I want you guys to really take in like what this man is saying, right? Don't just take everything and just run with it, right? Once again, take it with a grain of salt. Think for yourself, right? Because this is a blind reaction. I don't know what this man is going to say, but in the direction that he's heading, he's gifting people the knowledge that he may or may not be able to obtain himself, right? So take heed, listen really good, and I'm going to continue to react to the video as we go. So let's hit it.
What were you like when I was 25? Well, I was obsessed. 25, so that would have been 87. I'd been in graduate school for 2 years. Well, you know, when I was 25 or so, I probably weighed about 138 pounds. I smoked like a pack of cigarettes a day. I drank tremendous amount of alcohol. I was from northern Alberta, this rough.
And that's crazy, you know, and at least he's authentic and honest about where he was in his life at that time, right? At least he's open and honest about the mistakes he's made at that age, right? And it takes being honest with yourself to understand that type of reality. Right? A lot of people just accept their reality and use defensive mechanisms to say, "Yeah, this is all right. This is all right." You accept and you make the choice that this is all right. That's the big difference, right? How you accept your own reality is going to define the person that you are.
Little town up in northern Alberta called Fairview, and there were long winters there, and my friends were heavy drinkers, and most of them dropped out of school by the time they were 15 or 16, went off to work
Influenced
on
by
oil rigs,
society.
and it was a rough town, and we drank a lot. And I started when I was 14, and you know, and so I had a lot of bad habits, let's say, and things that were, and I wasn't in great shape physically, and I was also still intellectually obsessed by as I am now, and so that
So he's always had an inquisitive mind. He's always been curious about certain things. Yet this is what we like to call cognitive dissonance. You know what's right from wrong, yet you still do the opposite thing. That's cognitive dissonance, right? You know that I smoke cigarettes, and you know that smoking cigarettes is bad for you, yet you continue to do it. You're not aligning yourself with you have a very intelligent mind, right? But you're not aligning yourself with your intuition. They need to be like this, right?
that would have been that would have been in 85. But I decided around then, about 85, 84, something like that, maybe a little earlier, that I was
He decided. Big key.
really going to try to get my act together, and so I started doing that. I first of all, I quit smoking. Well, that took a long time because I eventually had to quit drinking too in order to quit smoking. And I started working out, started playing sports, which I'd never done. I was a small kid. I'd been skipped a grade, and I was a small for my age. So sports were never, especially team sports, were never really a domain of expertise for me. Although I skied and went trapping with my dad, and went cross country skiing and camping and all that. So but when I went to graduate school, I started swimming. the first, the first physical exercise routine I did, I enrolled in a swimsercise course, I think it was called. So it was me and this like really overweight kid, and like these 60-year-old women, and man, they could out exercise me like mad. It was really embarrassing. Me and the overweight kid, we'd be just panting ourselves 3/4 to death at the end of the bloody workout, and these 60-year-old women who weren't in great shape were like chatting away as if nothing was going on at all in the pool. So that was quite embarrassing, and as was going to the weight room, because when I started I could barely bench press 75 pounds, and people used to keep coming over and helping me, which was the last thing I bloody well wanted, but certainly needed. And
But you can see right now he's building up the authenticity, right? He's letting you know his own trials and tribulations, the struggles that he had to go through when he decided that he wanted to be better. Because you can decide to be better, right? All right. Here's the thing: you can decide to be better all you want, but until you face those trials and tribulations and continue to push yourself through those trials and tribulations, you will not be who you want to be, right? Because you're gonna A, run back to your comfort zone, or you're gonna B, decide that whatever lies on the opposite side of this uncomfortability, I don't even know if that's a word, but on the other side of all this, of the state of being uncomfortable, that's what I'll say, on the state of being uncomfortable, that something greater lies ahead. I choose the latter 11 times out of 10. 110 times out of 10. It goes back to my previous video when I decided to start working on myself, right? Instead of being distracted by everything else that's going on in the world, right? By other people. When I actually locked in on myself, I realized how much of a belief and self-confidence I had in myself. So much so that it was almost borderline narcissistic. And I had to pull myself back because I was starting to really truly believe in myself. Not pull myself in the back of I need to suppress this, but there needs to remain a state of humbleness, right? Because this is God-given ability, at least for me. That spirituality to me, right? It's a God-given ability, right? For me to have this amount of confidence, to have this amount of knowledge that I have, to have the ability to speak to people the way I speak to people. And I humble myself and realize that this is a God-given ability. This is a God-given talent that he's given to me, right? And by saying that, right, look at Jordan Peterson. This is a very intellectual man, right? And he's showing you, right? He decided to go through these trials and tribulations, and he stayed on the course to do so, because the trials and tribulations that you face are either going to make you cower or they're going to make you better. You have to make the choice.
I got to the point where I could bench press 225 pounds. I think that was the best I did, and I gained about 30 pounds of muscle in a year and a half. So that was a good thing. So like I was kind of a wild man, and you know I'm a little bit manic in my temperament, and so you know I was kind of going every direction at the same time. So, and you know I don't regret that. I had a fine time when I was a kid, but I needed really to get disciplined, and I had to do it because I was working on these hard problems that you know that I've been discussing with all of you, and I've been working on them really, you know, obsessively since I was probably about 18, maybe even earlier than that, and got to the point around 25 when I was in graduate school trying to get my PhD, so doing all my research. Like I published 15 papers by the time I graduated with my PhD, which was I think by a fairly large measure the most papers that any graduate student at that time had ever published at McGill. I think that's right. It might have been twice as many, or maybe twice as many, maybe even 3 times as many. And at the same time, I wrote Maps of Meaning, which was a terribly difficult thing to do, because I was writing about 3 hours a day doing that. And I couldn't do all that and continue with my misbehavior, you know, my sort of, what would you say, my hedonistic, my massive hedonistic consumption of alcohol and all of that. I just couldn't.
And when he says hedonistic, it's the overindulgence, right? That's what he means. Hedonistic means the overindulgence of things, right? They're you know, like some people say they're not addicted to smoking weed, but the overindulgence will show. The actions speak louder than what they say, right? And when you're on this path of bettering yourself, you realize how much time is of a critical asset to you, and what you're doing in that time defines who you are, especially when you're alone. What you do with the time allotted every single day, time, right, is going to be the absolute definition of who you are as a character, as a person, right? How you manage your time, how you handle your time, what you're doing with that said time is all going to be a defining trait of you.
Keep it up and also work seriously on the issues that were at hand. So, you know, I had to stop. That's a sacrifice. I had to stop messing about and straighten myself out. And I got married. Well, the woman who's my wife, Tammy, who I've known since she was 8 years old, she lived across the street from me in this little town called Fairview, and I was in love with her like the first time I saw her, which is quite the bloody thing. So that's worked out pretty well for me. But she came to live with me about the same time, and you know we decided jointly to get our act together, and we swore that we'd tell each other the truth, which I think she's actually done better than me. Like I don't think she's lied to me ever in our entire marriage, which is unbelievable, you know. And it's been so useful because I can really tell her things and we can really talk. So I tell you, if you want to have a good relationship, man, you embed it in the truth, because if you don't embed it in the truth, you don't have a relationship. It's just lies. It's a tissue of lies, and it will dissolve in the chaos as soon as a crisis comes along. So the truth is a terrible thing, but not compared to falsehood. So all right, so let's look at the live chat here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angelo, and
That's a W video, man. Like,
What?
that's a very W video, man. I just want everybody to understand this, man. Especially when it comes to these things in life. Give me 1 second. I just gotta switch this back. Right. So it starts with this, man. It starts with this. Have the honest conversation with yourself. Understand that everything that you're doing right now may or not be the perfect alignment for you with the time that you have, right? And look at your actions, right? Be aware of the actions. Right? You just start small, right? On your day-to-day basis, what actions are you making that you know are not beneficial to who you want to be in the future? And you start there, and then you work on those things and you replace those things with positive, right? Like say you smoke a lot of weed, right? Instead of sitting around with your friends smoking weed all day, fucking go to the gym, pick up a book, you know, work on something to better yourself and eventually replace that habit that you deem, right? Smoking weed may not be a habit that you deem unnecessary to you, but for anybody, right? Whatever that habit may be, replace that habit with something positive. Whether it's tapping into your creative side, learning how to paint, learning how to write, learning how to write poems or type or some shit. Work on a said craft, right? And replace that. For me, like meditation is a big thing for me. Reading my books, right? Reading my books is a thing for me. Like I have slowly but surely turned into a bookworm. And it's not just like fiction books, it's books that rewire my mind, right? And I don't want anybody out here to think like what you're doing may not, you know, because I don't care what anybody thinks about me, right? At the end of the day, that's how you should be thinking because it's your life to live, right? Not even in a selfish way, but it's your life. You make the decision. So take that in the heat. Be honest with yourself first and foremost, because the realest love you're going to get is from yourself. The realest love you're going to get is from yourself. So work on loving yourself first and foremost. It's your boy McLavishh, man. Peace, prosperity, and power. Mind, body, and soul. Make sure you tap in on the Twitch, all the socials below, man. Mind, body, and soul, death before the sign of speaking the truth, keeping the faith, and holding it the fuck down, man. Y'all have a great day.